General Hospital spoilers tease a whirlwind of emotional turmoil and intense drama as Jocelyn Jax's grief and sense of betrayal evolve into something darker, more dangerous, and destructive. The seemingly calm and collected young woman, once known for her light-hearted charm and loyalty to her friends, will soon find herself caught in a web of jealousy, anger, and a thirst for vengeance. The loss of her beloved Dex, combined with mounting suspicions and emotional strain, leads Jocelyn down a path where she's willing to take drastic, unforgivable measures. A chain of events set into motion by Jocelyn's actions promises to shake the foundation of relationships in Port Charles and leave a trail of devastation. The turmoil begins with a budding romance. Emma Drake, who has recently been seen growing closer to Gio, seems to be on the verge of entering a new relationship, much to Jocelyn's dismay. For Emma, who has always been sweet, smart, and approachable, this development could be seen as an innocent flirtation, a chance at happiness after facing years of personal challenges. However, for Jocelyn, this romantic development feels like a betrayal, not necessarily because she is interested in Gio herself, but because of the emotional void that has taken root in her heart since Dex's tragic death. Jocelyn's world has been turned upside down since she lost Dex in what many believe to be a senseless act of violence. The weight of his death has taken a toll on her mental and emotional well-being, pushing her into a vengeful mindset. She feels as though everything that once brought her peace has been ripped away, and her connection to the people she trusts most in her life is beginning to feel increasingly frail. In a moment of emotional vulnerability, she decides to take matters into her own hands. Her search for answers, and ultimately for retribution, leads her to a troubling discovery: Dex's gun. Finding Dex's gun only deepens the darkness that's already overtaken Jocelyn. While others around her are moving forward, trying to rebuild their lives and relationships, she feels as though she is stuck in a never-ending loop of sorrow and rage. It is in this emotional state that she considers the possibility of attacking Cyrus Renault, the notorious crime boss who is rumored to have been behind Dex's death. The gun symbolizes her desire for justice, but it also marks the beginning of her descent into moral ambiguity. The question now becomes whether Jocelyn will truly go through with her plan to confront Cyrus, or if she will find another target for her pain and fury. At the same time, Jocelyn's already strained friendships are beginning to unravel. Her best friend, Trina Robinson, whom she has leaned on for emotional support in the wake of Dex's death, has become closer to Emma. This new closeness between Trina and Emma catches Jocelyn off guard and further isolates her. The more she watches Emma and Trina bond, the more Jocelyn feels rejected and abandoned. She had hoped that Trina would remain her constant, the one person who could understand the depth of her grief, but the appearance of a new, seemingly unbreakable bond between Trina and Emma leaves Jocelyn feeling increasingly like an outsider in her own life. But the sense of betrayal doesn't stop there. Jocelyn soon learns that Trina's heart is not entirely with her in this difficult time. Trina has been developing feelings for someone else, Kai, a man whom Jocelyn doesn't fully trust or understand. This revelation shakes Jocelyn to her core as she sees the people closest to her moving forward, finding love and happiness, while she remains stuck in her pain and bitterness. Even worse, Jocelyn is forced to confront the reality that Emma, too, is not as emotionally available to her as she once was. The love triangle of sorts that begins to take shape between Jocelyn, Emma, and Trina makes Jocelyn feel increasingly isolated, as if no one in her life is truly there for her anymore. The emotional toll of this jealousy and rejection finally reaches a boiling point for Jocelyn. The insecurity and bitterness that have been festering beneath the surface for weeks finally come to a head, and she finds herself seething with resentment. It's in this state of intense anger and emotional vulnerability that Jocelyn's worst fears begin to manifest, and she finds herself consumed by jealousy. The emotional wreckage she feels within herself spirals into something far darker and dangerous. One pivotal moment will change everything. Jocelyn, unable to contain her feelings any longer, confronts Emma in an explosive argument. The tension between the two women reaches its peak as Jocelyn lashes out, unable to control the emotions flooding her system. In the heat of the argument, the unthinkable happens. Jocelyn reaches into her purse, where Dex's gun is now stashed, and pulls it out. The sharp click of the gun being released from its holster echoes in the room, sending a wave of shock and fear through the other people present. The suddenness of the moment leaves everyone frozen in shock. Kai, Trina, and Gio, who were all enjoying a small gathering at the time, are stunned by Jocelyn's unexpected move. They watch in horror as Jocelyn stands there, the gun shaking in her hands, her face a mask of emotional turmoil and rage. It's clear that she is no longer in control of her actions. Jocelyn's emotional collapse has led her to this devastating point, where the pain of loss and betrayal has manifested as a violent outburst that could change everything. Before anyone can react, a single shot rings out, and Emma collapses, the shock of the moment leaving her unable to comprehend what has just happened. The room is filled with stunned silence as Jocelyn stands frozen in place, her heart racing with fear and confusion. What was once a moment of fury has now turned into a tragic and irreversible mistake. Jocelyn is left horrified by what she has done, and the consequences of her actions are immediate and grave. As Emma's lifeless form hits the ground, it becomes clear that Jocelyn's life will never be the same. The gunshot marks the beginning of her descent into a much darker version of herself, one that is tainted by violence and regret. Jocelyn's anguish will only deepen as she comes to terms with the fact that she has taken an innocent life. She is immediately taken into custody, her actions sealing her fate in the eyes of the law. The aftermath of this incident will ripple through Port Charles in unimaginable ways. Jocelyn's relationships with her friends, especially Trina and Emma, will be irrevocably changed. Trina, who had been one of Jocelyn's closest allies, will now have to grapple with the reality of losing both her friend and her former confidant. The betrayal and confusion she feels will be compounded by the fact that Jocelyn's actions were driven by a deep, internal pain that no one truly understood until it was too late. The trust that once defined their friendship will be shattered, and both women will have to navigate a new, uncertain reality in the aftermath of Jocelyn's devastating act. For Emma, the consequences are even more tragic. Her life has been cut short by a single moment of rage, and the town of Port Charles will be forced to reckon with the fallout of her death. Emma's passing will leave a void in the lives of everyone who knew her, and the investigation into her death will reveal the depth of the emotional turmoil that drove Jocelyn to such extreme measures. In the end, Jocelyn will have to face the consequences of her actions, and the people around her will have to decide how they will respond to the tragedy she has caused. The emotional toll of Dex's death, combined with the betrayal of her friends, has led Jocelyn down a path of destruction, and she will have to confront the darker parts of herself if she ever hopes to rebuild any semblance of a life after the devastating consequences of that fateful moment.